我不是嫌弃他，因为我们的圈层不一样了，我没办法再爱了。我觉得保持我们内心的美好就可以了。
你觉得圈层是什么呢？
圈子就是我们现在的视野完全不一样了。就是他在社会，我在上学。
The girl who said she could no longer love is named Xiaotong. She and her boyfriend, Xiaojie, were classmates in the same high school, and shortly after graduation, they quickly confirmed their relationship. But since Xiaojie failed the college entrance exam, they ended up on completely different paths. Xiaotong continued studying peacefully, while Xiaojie began working various jobs to earn money and cover his girlfriend's expenses for food, drinks, and entertainment. At first, they didn't notice the difference between these two lifestyles, and the relationship was going very well. However, over time, Xiaotong gradually began to realize the distance between them and started to feel that Xiaojie was no longer on her level. That's why today she sought out the program's team, wanting to break up with him in front of everyone. As soon as she stepped onto the stage, Xiaotong began listing everything Xiaojie had already done for her.
我跟我男朋友6年的感情，就是从高中的时候他一直陪伴着我，从那时候开始追求的我嘛。后来我俩高考的时候，他说想跟我考一样的大学，我说你的专业跟我不一样，他说我想跟你一块儿上学。后来他也报这所学校，最后他落榜了。
If it weren't for her, Xiaojie wouldn't have forced himself to apply to that university, and he wouldn't have failed, nor would he have ended up in the situation of having nowhere to study.
因为以他的成绩完全可以上一个不错点的大学，或者回老家复读，但是他没有听，就义无反顾的还是跟我一块来了北京。
For Xiaojie, his own future was never as important as Xiaotong. Beijing was a strange city for them, so in order to take better care of Xiaotong, he chose to give up the opportunity to attend university and went to Beijing, working to earn money while staying by her side. He found a job in real estate, earning around 7,000 to 8,000, and rented an apartment for about 2,000 to 3,000. On weekends, when I wasn't busy, I would go visit him, she said. At the beginning of their life in Beijing, Xiaotong was very happy. Although her boyfriend's salary wasn't high, he still set aside part of it to help cover her expenses. The job was relatively decent and became her source of support in that unfamiliar city. That's why, whenever she had time, she would make a point of going to see him. But the good times didn't last long. An accident completely changed the way they related to each other.
那时候我出了一场车祸，因为当时我怕见不到他了，我给他发了一个短信，说我爱你，你可能会遇到更好的女孩，没有办法咱们在一起了。他最后选择给我交了医药费。
Tong didn't want to burden Xiaojie, which is why she sent that message. But clearly, Xiaojie could never accept Xiaotong's proposal. There was no way he was willing to give her up. Later, he began saving money to rent an apartment for only 700 or 800 yuan. It's something you can hardly imagine what it was like inside that apartment. Hot days, without air conditioning. Xiaotong described to us the image of a good man, someone who was always there for her spiritually, who gave up many things for her, and who, even in life's hardships, never abandoned her. So then, why did she want to break up? Xiaotong said. To be honest, I've always been hesitant about whether or not to say this. Because, in the beginning, our relationship was very good. I felt happy. But I think between us, the way we talk and that feeling has completely changed. That feeling no longer exists. I feel like I can't go on anymore. I really feel sorry for him. Xiaotong's words were like a bolt of lightning out of a clear sky for Xiaojie, who was sitting backstage. Up until that moment, he was still holding on to sweet expectations, imagining how he should go up on stage to receive Xiaotong's love confession. That's why he had bought a brand new suit, made many preparations, and even planned to confess back to her. But he never expected to receive this outcome. The host asked, "So today you came to make a confession, but it's actually to break up with your boyfriend? Is that it?" Xiaotong replied, "Yes." The host continued, "Can you really leave him?" And Xiaotong said coldly, "Only by letting go can you gain something new." Xiaotong's cold and cruel words came out with ease. 6 years of companionship and dedication were, for her, something that could be discarded without hesitation. Upon hearing this, one of the guests nearby couldn't hold back his indignation in defense of Xiaojie and complained, "I hate this kind of thing. Without any warning, you call someone here just to break up. He thought you were coming to confess and marry him, and suddenly, in a place like this, you dump him? I really hate this. I really feel sorry for this boy. I think he shouldn't even come up on stage. Xiaotong's attitude was cruel, trampling without restraint on Xiaojie's dignity and sincere heart. But in the end, what really happened that made her, even at the cost of being labeled heartless, still choose to break up in such a solemn moment?
就是在我没有出事之前呢，他想着是在我们学校附近，就是去饭馆去帮工。我当时和我室友一块出去买东西，然后顺便吃饭嘛，正好看见他从门口把那个面粉扛进去。我心想，我可不能让他看见我。我当时心想，我赶走吧，但是还是看到我了。我当时室友一直在问我说，那个人是不是在叫你？我说，哎，没有吧，你可能幻听错了，然后咱们快点走吧。他拉着我走的时候，我心里想，我知道我这样对不起我男朋友。
When she saw her boyfriend doing such heavy and exhausting work just to save money, her first reaction wasn't pity or gratitude, it was shame. That's why, now that she has graduated and already holds a job with a decent income, her very first thought was, to secure a happy future, she needed to get rid of this poor boyfriend. But for Xiaotong, did all of Xiaojie's effort over these 6 years really mean nothing? This young man gave up college, gave up his youth for her. He clearly could have gone to a top university, and perhaps today he might even be in a position to be her boss. But for her, he chose to give up everything and make all those sacrifices. One of the guests asked, "But if you don't love him anymore, you don't love him anymore. So should you still stay with him?" Another one countered, "I don't think it's that you don't love him anymore. Listen, that's not it. You didn't stop loving him, you simply began to despise him." Xiaotong replied, "I don't despise him, but our circles are no longer the same. I can't keep loving him." Xiaotong admitted that she knew how much her boyfriend had dedicated himself to her over those 6 years, but for her, love couldn't be treated like a debt of gratitude. She couldn't sacrifice her entire future just because of those 6 years. But then, in Xiaotong's view, what exactly does circle mean? She explained, "A circle means that now our careers are completely different. He's already in the workforce, and I was still studying. He interacts with totally different people in society." The guest refuted, "But when you had nothing, wasn't he also working hard in the job market to support you and pay for your studies?" Xiaotong believed that, ever since college, the two of them had already been on completely different life paths. Their social circles didn't align and couldn't blend. The guest's words left her speechless, but even so, she firmly held on to her decision to break up. She recalled, "After I graduated, he talked about marriage. But at the time, what I wanted was to build my career in this city, and he only thought about returning to his hometown." According to Xiaotong, the two of them had different life ambitions. Their worldviews had also grown apart, shaped by their distinct life experiences. She couldn't convince herself to continue with Xiaojie, because the gap between them had grown so wide that emotional effort alone could no longer bridge it.
我有一次忙完工作，我说我去找他吧，结果他朋友正好借住他家，我心想那算了，我直接在附近开一家酒店等你好了。他几个去了酒店之后就跟我说，你看你订的什么酒店这么贵，你觉得好意思吗？咱钱是这样花的吗？我心想，我花我的钱，我跟你也没有什么关系啊，跟你也没有什么关系啊。他觉得我就应该去那种网吧包一宿。
The sincere words that slipped from Xiaotong's mouth were like a knife driven deep into Xiaojie's heart. What for Xiaojie was care and concern for their future together. For Xiaotong sounded only like unnecessary interference. And to her, this was proof that the two were growing further and further apart. Xiaotong said, "When you choose someone who loves you or someone you love, beyond appearances and those superficial things, the most important thing is being compatible. Compatibility is more important than habit." In Xiaotong's heart, those 6 years of relationship were nothing more than a habit. They were no longer compatible and, above all, she no longer loved Xiaojie. As she spoke, she fidgeted with the envelope in her hands, catching the host's attention. The host asked, "What are you holding there?" Xiaotong replied, "I wanted to return all the money he spent on me over these years." 6 years of relationship and devotion, Xiaotong decided to turn it all into money. That was the cruel and merciless way she chose to cut ties with Xiaojie once and for all. The host pressed further. "But just how much are you planning to give back to buy off 6 years of his youth?" Xiaotong explained, "This card has the amount I calculated. It corresponds to what he spent on me over the years." Another guest asked, "I want to know where this money came from." How did you suddenly have so much? 40,000 yuan wasn't a fortune, but it wasn't a small sum either. For a newly graduated young woman, it was a significant amount. Xiaotong replied. This money, I had been saving it. My income isn't that high, but it's decent. I saved it little by little. The guest counted again. But this amount doesn't only come from what you earned, right? Part of it was given by your boyfriend. It was the household money, what he earned and gave you to manage. Is that correct? Xiaotong confirmed. Yes. But I didn't spend it all. I always saved part of it. One part came from his allowance, the household money we lived on, and the other part one earned myself through my work. Using the money her boyfriend gave her to repay his devotion, and feeling entitled to do so, was something a sensitive person could never bring themselves to do. But Xiaotong showed no guilt. On the contrary, she seemed to believe she was being generous. That was when Professor Zhuoyang lost his temper and shouted indignantly. How much exactly do you have there? 40,000? And how much do you still have in your account? Not much, Xiaotong replied. Zhuoyang shot back furiously. Let me tell you, that young man gave you everything, his money, his love, his youth. He supported your life, paid for your studies, gave up everything for you. And now you think you can just hand over a few dirty bills and buy back your peace of mind? You are the modern female version of Chen Shimai. For the professor, even if Xiaotong gave all her fortune back to Xiaojie, it wouldn't erase her coldness nor her guilt for abandoning him. Another guest tried to soften things. I think, at least, she was honest. Of course, the way she expressed herself was terrible, because she's a bit carried away right now. But at the very least, she was sincere with her feelings. Love cannot be forced. Commentator Fu Shoa added. Love is about reciprocity. For 6 years, they supported each other. It's just that Xiaojie sacrificed more. But now, if on one side the love has already ended, forcing the relationship to continue would only bring more pain. Better to stop before it gets worse. In the end, everything would depend on Xiaojie's reaction. The host then announced, "Let him come up to the stage." The audience reacted. Wow, he's crying. He cried, oh my God. Does he still love her? He's actually pretty handsome. Will he come up? He's handsome. But I wouldn't go up. I wish you happiness. Xiaojie understood he was going to lose Xiaotong forever. That's why he cried uncontrollably. But in the midst of his turmoil, he decided not to go on stage. He wanted, at least, to preserve his last shred of dignity. After a brief farewell, he turned and hurried away. In the empty seat he left behind, something caught everyone's attention. A small model of a house. In a previous recording, Xiaojie had explained excitedly. In March, delivering food, I earned more than 3,000 yuan. In April, working as a courier, I made 3,500. Now I've saved around 60,000 yuan. In the village, houses are cheaper, about 80,000. Soon I'll be able to start building. And he added. Tongtong always said she loved two-story houses because she liked standing on the balcony to look at the view. So of course, I'll build her a beautiful balcony, even if it costs more. Before appearing on the show, Xiaojie, full of hope for the supposed confession of love he thought he would hear from Xiaotong, had built that model house with his own hands. It was the representation of the future he dreamed of with her. But now, it all meant nothing. He carried away only his dignity and left in silence. Yet, unexpectedly, upon seeing the model house, Xiaotong burst into tears and ran after him. Come back, please. Let me say this to you face to face. But she couldn't catch up with him. She fell to the ground crying, unsure if she already regretted what she had done. But harsh words, once spoken, cannot be taken back. Spilled water cannot be gathered again. When the disaster of a relationship arrives, nothing can be restored. And when love ends, if at least each one carries away their dignity, maybe there's still a chance to find happiness in the future.
And honestly, this story left me completely outraged. Because it's not just about a relationship that came to an end, it's about how ingratitude can be cruel and devastating. It's about how someone can simply erase 6 years of dedication, sacrifice, and love as if they were nothing, and still have the coldness to put it all in an envelope of money, as if a person's life, youth, and dreams could be bought in installments. Xiaojie, as we saw, was a young man with ability, intelligence, and above all, heart. He had everything it took to get into a better university, to build a promising future, maybe even brighter than Xiaotong's own. But no, he chose to go with her. He sacrificed his academic future just to stay by her side. He gave up his youth, his comfort, his dignity, to work in low-paying jobs, to carry sacks of flour, to sweat under the heat without air conditioning, all to support her, to care for her, to simply be there. And what did he get in return? Contempt disguised as a difference in social circles. It's almost funny, ironically speaking, how this expression, social circle, turned into the perfect excuse to justify pure coldness. When it was convenient, she accepted his money, the meals he paid for, the security of knowing someone was there for her. But when she advanced a little, got a better job, and saw new horizons, she decided they were no longer compatible. It wasn't a lack of love, as some of the guests tried to say, it was pure disdain. This story is a harsh reflection of our times. It shows how, in today's world, it's pointless to hand over your life on a silver platter, expecting gratitude or loyalty. You can give your youth, your energy, even your soul. But in the end, no one will climb down into the pit to rescue you. People are more pragmatic than ever, more willing to follow their own path, even if it means stepping on the very person who helped them get there. It may sound selfish to say we must always put ourselves first, but that's the reality. If you don't do it, no one else will. And it's sad, deeply sad, to see someone with so much potential like Xiaojie have his future shattered because he believed in the wrong person. He had the ability to be much more. He had everything it took to be her boss one day, as even the guests pointed out. But he limited himself because he believed in love, because he thought it was worth walking together. In the end, he was left alone, with empty hands and a broken heart. What do you think about this story? Do you think Xiaotong was right to be practical and move on with her life? Or do you believe she was ungrateful and cruel to someone who gave absolutely everything for her? I want to hear your opinion in the comments. And if you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and follow along for more impactful and thought-provoking stories like this one. I'll see you in the next video.